Hey there, friends. Alex from the Big Dream Program. A little thought about planning in life versus just appreciating what you have, appreciating the moment and so on. Some people who have not done my program about finding our calling in life, but I get talking to, and they're trying to understand what I do, but they only know a few sound bites. Yet will say, I don't know if there's such a thing as a calling, Alex. Some version of that, where I think it's just about you do whatever you do, and you learn to enjoy it. Like you learn to make the most out of it, all of that. I completely agree. If they were only in my program, they'd know that is baked into every cell of the curriculum in the Big Dream Program. Appreciating, I totally agree with them. But I think what's happening here is that it's being put into a binary, like an either or. Either you plan your life to death, right? Literally, actually. Or you just, don't worry about all that. Just appreciate the moment. That's where the juice is. And do you not see that you can go terribly wrong if you only do one of those things, right? Both are important. I'm thinking of examples where, like, do we not, I don't know, you have a bunch of errands to do tomorrow and they're all over town, and one place is in the next town over, you've never been there before. Would you not take a little time to plan? Wouldn't that make sense, generally speaking? Okay, I'm going to do this errand, then this errand, and then I better look up directions to that place I'm going. I just suggest that it makes it more easy to be able to live in the moment and appreciate the moment when there's just a little bit, the right amount of structure underneath what you're doing. I've used the example in my program of imagine you're on a retreat and you're supposed to go out into the forest and empty your mind and just appreciate the forest and stuff. That's not a bad idea. But what if there's a path, through the forest, and they say if you take that path, then as long as you keep walking, you're going to be back here in time for supper. In other words, you don't get lost and you have a sense of the timing involved. That makes it more easy to be able to be in the moment when you're in the forest. Whereas if there was no path at all and they just sent you off into the Canadian wilderness, say, all right, hopefully you're back by supper. Like, that makes it harder to appreciate the moment because there's no modicum of structure underneath it such that you can relax. So anyway, I just don't think planning and living in the moment are two separate things. In fact, I think they're bedfellows. They're a marriage. They're a partnership. They work really, really well together and work very poorly on their own. To the essential, I don't know, like what the Big Dream Program is about and what it's made for, is for people trying to figure out the question. If they struggle with the question, if they don't, it's fine. They're not interested. But if they struggle with the question, there's some kind of purpose for me. I'm here to do something. I can't figure out what it is. And often where they've gone wrong, everything about this that I'm sharing is stuff where I went wrong, right? That's why I'm passionate about sharing it with other people, is they automatically think of the work. Is my calling, I'll be a teacher or a Reiki master or a therapist or an entrepreneur or a label, an architect, a lawyer. That's where most of them go wrong, because you could be a lawyer. I don't know, let's just say lawyer is your favorite thing in the world. You could be a lawyer that's working in an office, working for clients you don't like, partners you don't like, and work that's not meaningful and maybe even is, against your values. That's one way of being a lawyer. Another way of being a lawyer, like a friend of mine, is you're a professor and you're helping young people understand parts of law. He loves it. Those are very different things. And so it's not the label within which we find our calling. That can be a piece of it. But more important is how it's done. And so the question it always boils down to in the Big Dream Program, as a structural question for those trying to figure out their calling, is instead of what should I be, like lawyer, architect, nurse, instead of asking that, if that's tripping you up and has maybe for decades, try a different question. What do I want to be doing on a Tuesday? With whom? And why? Tuesday being metaphorical. I mean every day of the week, and if you can figure that out, like you wake up in the morning, who are you with? What are you doing? What kinds of activities and with whom? That's key. Like you can imagine having a fantastic skill, talent, job, something you love doing the activity of. But I mean, all of us have experienced probably that who you're doing it with really, really matters. A life coach years and years ago when I first started said, I don't think most people are upset with, what's the word I'm looking for? Like with what they're doing with their life, with their job, let's say. They're upset about who they're doing it with. I think there's a lot of truth to that. But the job does matter too, because I used to be a commercial diver. I did not like it. And changing the who's that I did it with didn't help a lot. Okay? But anyway, all of that to say that I think a little bit of planning with the right questions, with the right structure, planning without the right set of questions in the first place will get us nowhere. It will, tie us up in knots. And our friends will say, can you not just appreciate the moment? And they'd probably be right, because we're trying to make plans with the wrong set of rules for us. But planning allows us to be able to appreciate life just that little bit more. Anyway, I want to share all that, and my arm's getting sore, so I'm going to finish up. Hope you have a good day. Bye.